Growing up, my mother, Evelyn, absolutely detested me. I was an only child, and it was made very clear that I was, as she put it, the worst mistake she had ever made. I know the circumstances of my birth by heart, as she practically branded the words into my brain. My mother was 19, beautiful and free, brilliant, she told me, and a beauty pageant starlet. She had just won Miss Bricktown and was on her way to becoming Miss Oklahoma. That was, of course, until she fell ill. By falling ill, she meant she was pregnant with me. She told me I ruined her. I stole her from the spotlight. I sucked the life out of her with everything it took to birth and raise me. What she won't tell you is that she didn't just fall ill. She fell right into a male judge who promised her a shining crown. If you ask her, though, she'll never admit it. Hell, in her eyes, I might as well have been some twisted, immaculate conception. From this, you can guess just how horrible my childhood was. She spit venom every time she spoke to me, and though she never hit me, she knew how to instill a deeper, more personal pain. I did whatever I could to try and impress her. Clubs, sports, I was even student body president, but nothing worked. She detested me and viewed me only as a thing that ruined her life. The final straw was when I turned 16. At this age, I had finally well matured and began to take after my mother's looks. She must have noticed, because one day after school I came home to a large, frilly pink dress sitting on my bed. She had signed me up for some beauty pageant 2 towns over. This is when I finally had enough. I was not going to let her ignore and berate me my whole life and then suddenly try and live vicariously through me. Absolutely not. I emancipated, cut off all contact, and began living with a friend of mine. I graduated, went to college, got married. I have a lovely life that never existed under her roof. Now, I am 26 and just had my first child, a baby girl I named Lydia. Last night, the message came in from a number I didn't recognize. Adriana, it's Evelyn. You should be receiving my package any day now. I stared at my phone, dumbfounded. I had changed my number several times in the last 10 years and had no living relatives anymore to give her my new one. I collected myself and replied, "Who is this actually? Is this some kind of sick joke?" The next text came in quickly. "I see you've never lost your attitude, did you? I will be visiting soon to meet my sweet granddaughter. XOXO, Mimi." I knew it wasn't true. She didn't even know what state I lived in, let alone my address. I didn't know who was pulling such a sick prank on me, but I blocked the number promptly. In the next couple days, I quickly forgot about the exchange. The number was blocked, and that was it. That was until I opened my door one evening and found a small lavender box on my front porch. On top of the box was a glittery bow with a note tied to it reading, "To Lydia, love Mimi." No shipping label, no return address, just those 4 horrifying words. With shaking hands, I brought the box inside and untied the ribbons, keeping it together. Inside was a bright pink, frilly dress, the same one my mother bought for me when I was 16. Only this one was small enough to fit a very young child in. My hand shut over my mouth in horror. Whoever was pulling this twisted little stunt had taken it too far. This was sick. I grabbed my phone and dialed my husband as quickly as I could. The call failed immediately. He had gone on some stupid bachelor party ski trip and, just my luck, had no service. No, my husband wasn't enough. I went to dial 911 before the next text came in from another unrecognized number. "A lovely dress for the future starlet. It's important to start training them early. I'll be there shortly to help out. XOXO, Mimi." "Listen here, you sick freak," I typed vigorously. "I don't know who you are or what game you're playing, but you better leave my family alone before I get the cops involved." I blocked the number again. I felt exhausted and sick. I hoped that the threat of police would be enough for this to stop. I grabbed Lydia from her playpen and held her in my arms tight before hauling the 2 of us into my bed and going to sleep. I decided that my little girl was not leaving my sight until this whole thing blew over. I'll admit, even if I did think it was a joke, I was getting uneasy. That unease grew into genuine fear the following morning. I awoke to my daughter crying, burrowed in my chest. I pried open my sleep-crusted eyes and immediately did a double take. Perched on top of my baby's head was a small, silver tiara. I could feel acid rising in my throat at the sight. I knew it wasn't ours, as I refused to get my daughter anything even slightly related to pageantry due to the trauma of my youth. I jumped out of bed and practically sprinted to my front door. It was wide open. Someone had been in my home. The only people who knew the keypad lock code were my husband and I. How had someone been in my home? I called the police. They showed up and inspected my home. All that they could tell me was that if nothing was stolen, then I should get security cameras and install new locks. Pissed was an understatement, but I did as they instructed. The new lock would be here the day after tomorrow, and the cameras would be here next week. This was too long for comfort. Things were clearly escalating, and I didn't know if I even had until the day after tomorrow. What that even meant, I hardly knew. I was in a panicked frenzy. I had barely hit submit order when the next message came in, again, from a new unknown number. You are being very rude, Adie. I will see my grandbaby whether you like it or not, and I will be damned if I let some silly lock keep me out. This is my right. You may have ruined me, but I will not let you ruin that little girl too. This time I fully threw up. Adie. It was a name only my mother called me as a child. I had never used it with anyone else. No one else could have known this sick little pet name. This no longer felt like a trick. The truth boiled up like last night's dinner. This was her. My mother had found me after all these years. Through welling tears, I replied, I don't know how you found me, and I don't care. This is my family, not yours. If you come anywhere near my daughter again, I swear to God, I will kill you. The next text came in only moments later. You can try. I will see you this evening for dinner. XOXO. Mimi. I spent the rest of the day in a panic. I barricaded every door and window into my house. I was taking absolutely no chances. What the hell was I so scared of? At this point, she must have been 45. Surely I would be able to overpower her if it came to that, right? I put my daughter down to bed at 7:30. After triple checking that there was no way in or out of this house, I sat in my kitchen, a knife clutched in my hand, watching the front lawn. As expected, another text came in. This text was a single image, an image of my home. An image of me in the window, eyes filled with fear. Another message came in that simply read, I'm here. My animal instincts kicked in. If she was here, I was going to face her. By God, I was absolutely not going to be afraid of this woman. I would not allow her any more control over my life. I was going to end this. I pulled the armchair out from in front of the door, tearing apart my barricade I had been so worried about before, and stormed into my front lawn, knife still in hand. That's when I saw her. She was standing unmoving, unblinking in my neighbor's front lawn, directly across the street, wearing my pink frilly dress and an impossibly tall silver crown. As I walked closer, I began to realize something was horribly wrong with her. The dress she was wearing looked torn to shreds. It was covered in deep brown stains, and I swear I could smell it from where I stood. Not only that, but she was completely deformed. Her once long blonde curly hair was now matted and gray. It looked as though it had begun falling out of her head in clumps, leaving large bald patches. She was impossibly thin, her now pale yellow-tinged skin stretched paper thin over sharp bone. There were green, pus-filled pockets along her arms and legs that looked almost like mold. Then her face, oh dear God, her face! It was like something from a horror movie. Her lips seemed to have receded, showing thick black gums and yellow cracked teeth. The lack of lip did not stop her from painting a cherry red ring around her perpetual smile. Her eyes seemed to have shrunk back into their sockets. Smoky eye makeup made them look like deeply bruised pits. She raised a single rotting hand and gave me a beauty queen wave, turning her wrist back and forth. I let out a blood-curdling scream before quickly turning around and bolting back inside. I slammed the door behind me, returned the armchair into its defensive position, and ran to my kitchen window, but she was gone. I thought of calling the police, but they had been useless already. No, this was my fight, and something inside of me knew it. But oh God, what was wrong with her? For the first time in my life, I decided to look my mother up on the internet. I don't know what compelled me to do it, but I had to know what was happening. I couldn't just wait here like a sitting duck for that monster to come back. I typed her name into the search bar. The first few articles were all old, simple retellings of her pageant winnings and interviews from 10 years ago. Then I saw an article from this year, 2 months ago to be exact. It was a scanned image of a newspaper article, far smaller and less extravagant than the others, from her youth, crammed into the bottom of the page. The article detailed a couple who was taking a morning walk when they stumbled upon an unmoving body. I'll give you 2 guesses as to who it was, but I'll bet you only need one. She had overdosed. She was a crackhead. My mother. My perfect, ever-bragging mother. A crackhead. More importantly than that, she was dead. Only she wasn't dead. She was outside. I just saw her living and breathing. I tried to rationalize, only to realize that that thing I saw outside could not have been living and breathing. My breath shortened. My stomach emptied onto the kitchen floor once again. My heart began to beat out of its chest when the last message came in. I'm coming in now. I am going to see my grandbaby. XOXO. Mimi. I'm sitting here now in my daughter's room trying not to wake her. I can feel the tears streaking down my face. This last message came in 5 minutes ago and the knocking started 2 minutes ago. I can't move. I'm frozen with fear. My poor baby is sleeping soundly behind me with no clue as to what horrors are happening around her. I don't know what to do. My mother's knocks have finally ceased. I can hear her punching the keypad. It's too late. That thing is here. She found me. I still have my knife. I hope to God that I have the strength to use it. Lydia, if by some miracle you find this someday, please know that I love you and that I plan to go out fighting to protect you. I am so sorry.